Hello, it's Tom from Big Tom Driving School here. Just want to do a roundabout video, quite a brief one, but just want to get over a few key skills when you're practicing these roundabouts. This one here is actually a real, this is taken from a real roundabout, so the markings are all real. I haven't just made this up. It's a relatively small roundabout. It's not a mini roundabout, but it's relatively small, but it's incredibly busy. So when you've got these lanes, people coming in, drivers in these lanes here, drivers in this lane here will be expected to go that way, won't they, because of that arrow. This is a straight on arrow, so drivers in this lane would be expected to either be going that exit there, no signal required, or if they're going to go round the roundabout, they'd have a right signal, wouldn't they? Drivers over here, let's have a look. These ones here would be expected left signal to go off there. These ones here could be doing a couple of things. They could be going round the roundabout and back on themselves, or they could be coming off this, either of those two lanes. And then over here on this one, we've got straight over that lane there, or you could go into that lane there, on that lane, or you could be going right, or you could be going all the way around. So I don't know whether this comes across at all. I mean, I hope it does, but this is quite a pretty complex little roundabout. If you're coming in at, say, here, now like I said, I don't know if you can see that in the video, that's a straight on arrow only there down the bottom. This is a left only arrow, so these vehicles would be expected to be going that way. No one would be. You could quite justifiably, reasonably expect no one in this lane to be going da 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 and then going across there. No, they shouldn't be. They should only be going there. So consequently, when you're in this lane here, you're either going that way or you're going around. So, but look what you're supposed to be. Look at all of this stuff going on over here. Look, remember, you know. This is the way we go around the roundabouts in the UK, and so consequently when you're sat there, you're primarily concerned about anything that's coming across you, aren't you? Across the front of your vehicle. And as I've just said, they could be coming from lots of different ways, couldn't they? And one of the things I want to sort of say to you from the start is that when you are sat there on a busy roundabout like this one here, it's not like there's a countdown clock going on. It's not as if you sit there and as soon as you sit there, because you can't go because there's vehicles coming around, it's not as if, oh blimey, now I've got to move off in the next 15 seconds, and then another 5 seconds go, I must move off in the next 10 seconds, and then another 5 seconds go, I really must go in the next 5 seconds now, because that's just putting an unnecessary pressure on you to go when perhaps you just can't go. So you just have to be prepared. Sometimes this is a mindset thing. When you're sat here waiting, because there's vehicles coming all over the show and they're coming across you, you just have to be prepared to wait until there is a reasonable gap. So the first point I want to get over is the point about this countdown clock. It's not there. That's just something that you're generating for yourself that you really don't need. If it's not on, it's not on. Safety is the paramount thing, as opposed to moving on the roundabout when you shouldn't have, because you've misjudged it. But what can we actually get from when you're sat there? What is it about the vehicles? Let's take these guys over here. Look, if you think about it, anyone in this lane, when you're sat here, where my finger is, anyone over here on the top who's going left, they don't really affect you, do they? You would not have to be giving way to those ones. But these ones over here in this lane here, they could be doing a couple of things. They could be going straight over, but if they're coming around, then they're going to be coming across you. So what is it about these vehicles in this lane that you can actually look at to see what they're going to be up to? If they are going to do this UE, where you would have to give way to them, they're going to be doing that really quite slowly, because there's a lot of steering involved in that. You would like to think they would have a right signal on, although that's not a given, but you'd like to think they'd have a right signal on if they're going to go around there, although that's not a given. But their speed will be like, and also they'll be hugging this curb, won't they? Not the curb, just the roundabout here. They'll be quite close. As they go round there, they're going to be quite close to that roundabout, because they're coming back on themselves. So there's a few clues there from these ones, from these guys there. I mean, theoretically speaking, when people come off of roundabouts, they're supposed to have a left signal on, but in my experience, you know, I'm afraid you just can't really rely on that, because it's just not, people don't tend to be very good at signalling left to come off of a roundabout. But on the other hand, if they're going to go roundabout, take these guys over here, look. If they're going to go round a roundabout to go off on that exit, I think you could reasonably expect drivers to have a right signal on at that point. Again, you know, you can't take anything as being red, but if a vehicle was coming down that lane there to turn right, go around this roundabout and come off there, you could reasonably expect them to have a right signal on. So if you're sat there and there's vehicles coming in this lane here, coming onto the roundabout, and some have right signals and some don't have right signals, you know, that's a fairly good indicator of what they're doing. If they don't have a right signal on, you see, they could be just going off into that lane there. If they do have a right signal on, they're going to go around there. You always must take care with signals, because people get signals wrong. Sometimes they don't even realise they've got a signal on, or that they need to have a signal on, you know. So really what I'm trying to get over, I suppose, in a nutshell, is I'm trying to sort of say to you that when you're sat here in this position here, and you're wanting to go across this roundabout, and you're thinking to yourself, who do I need to be giving way to here? Who do I need to be giving way to? Well, the answer is you need to be giving way to anyone who comes across the front of your car there, look, that's you. So any cyclists, motorcyclists, cars, vehicles, anything that comes across your front of your vehicle, you're giving way to them. But of course there's going to be, on a busy roundabout, there's going to be a heck of a lot of traffic, either coming down there, or coming down across there, or across there. So there's going to be an awful lot of traffic to your right. But you can imagine, can't you? You could be sat there like that, looking at all this traffic, and all the traffic's going down there. And you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, oh, blimey, oh, I could have gone there. Oh, I could have gone then. Oh, blimey, I could have gone there. So try to look out for the signs as to whether they're actually going to be coming across you or not. And practice it. It is a skill in itself to be able to judge whether people are, where people are going. Reading roundabouts, this is a mental skill, it just needs a bit of practice. I mean, my advice for you as you're approaching the roundabout is to be thinking about your speed rather than thinking about your gears. When you're approaching this roundabout here, I personally, I mean, if this is a busy old roundabout, why are we even considering? I'm bowling up here. Anything above sort of 5 miles an hour, I would say is kind of really crazy. So think about your speed rather than thinking about gears. If you can set your speed correct, then you can then get the appropriate gear for that. So in this case here, second gear with a view to perhaps clutch down and pause, So second gear, 5 miles an hour, nice and slow. Give your eyes a chance to start looking and reading what's going on over this side, you see. Start reading whether anyone's got any signals on, right signals on. Start reading these vehicles here. Has anyone got a right signal on? Because it's the right signals and the ones that are positioned really close to this roundabout, they're the ones you've got to watch. You've got to give way to those. So that would be one thing I'd say to you. Don't think of gears, think of speed. Get your speed down. It's a very, very common problem. People tend to concentrate on gears first, which is a shame. You should be thinking about speed. What is the appropriate speed to be bowling up to a roundabout to give your eyes a chance to start reading it, even before you get to the dotted lines. The sooner you can start looking to the right and trying to suss out what's going on and who's doing what and where they're all going and la-da-da. You want to try and get your speed so that your eyes get a chance to do that. Because if your eyes don't get a chance to look right, all that happens is you end up stopping anyway. That's just a symptom of someone who's bowling up to roundabouts too fast, really. Alright then, so just to recap on that then, first of all, there isn't a countdown clock. This is a sort of mindset thing that you're putting undue pressure on, unnecessary pressure on yourself. When you're sat there and it's all busy and everyone's coming around and blah blah blah, you can't go, and you just can't go, and it doesn't matter how many cars or vehicles behind you, you just literally can't go, and you just have to wait and be patient, and you're not in anyone's way. You're just literally waiting for a convenient gap. And so that's the first thing about the mindset. The second thing is looking, when you're trying to read where people are going, look at their speed, look at their position and look at their signals, and they're all a clue as to whether they're coming round the roundabout or whether they're going to be going off there. And when you do find yourself on these kind of roundabouts and you see that there is a gap, one of the practical tips I'd give you here is just to sort of say, make sure you're setting gas. Make sure you set gas, because when you do decide to go, you've got to go, haven't you? I mean, this is going to be so far, I don't know whether you can imagine this, this is going to be such a sort of fast changing roundabout, fast moving, it's such a fluid situation that that volume of traffic there, when you do see yourself with a gap because nobody's coming round, you must set the gas while you're waiting so that you can then bring the clutch up a little bit briskly, bit more with a bit more urgency. The clutch comes up, and then that enables you to get going, doesn't it? You know, you've made the decision, you've seen a safe gap, and then you get going. You can't kind of like, oh right, you can't look at this and go to yourself, right, yeah, okay, well there's a gap, right, off I go. And then you sort of like, then you start setting your gas, and then you start to slowly bring the clutch up, and you're sort of doing it. Meanwhile, two cars are always sort of bearing down on you. It's because you've got to practically get your feet ready, and setting the gas is an absolutely essential thing to do when you're on busy roundabouts. Anyway, I hope that's kind of helpful to you. If there's any questions about this, you know, just bung them down below. I'll be very, very happy to ask any questions. I appreciate that this is not easy, is it? And I'm not pretending it is for a second. When I talk about setting gas here, by the way, you know, so that when you go, you really do go. That I'm not for 1 second suggesting that you should be practicing that skill in this scenario. Go somewhere quiet, and with your driving instructor, practice when you do decide to go. Practice that skill of bringing the clutch up briskly and moving into it from first to second briskly. Practice that on a nice quiet road where there's no other vehicles, and then you won't be practicing a skill that if it goes wrong, it has pretty dire consequences. That's just an unnecessary pressure that you just don't need. So be mindful as to where you practice these things. And once you've got that kind of sorted out, I tend to, with my customers, I call it the bank job getaway. You know, there are times, not many, but there are times when you're driving a vehicle that when you decide to go, you've got to go. You've got to be assertive, you've got to be confident with what you're doing, and that takes practice. And you practice that in a good location rather than in a sort of stressful situation like this. Okay, all right. Thanks very much.